Theirs was a storybook romance between a handsome older man
He's charming, he's charismatic.
and a shy young healthcare worker.
She was sweet, didn't get in no trouble.
He'll cook, he'll buy me flowers. We just was in love with each other.
But their love story would be shattered by a shocking crime.
People were horrified. I have never seen anything quite as horrific.
The ensuing investigation would unearth an unimaginable tale of terror
All I could see was these lashes. It was just horrible.
and expose a house of horrors, the likes of which police have never seen.
You're looking at belts, cords, blood on the wall. It is truly a medieval torture chamber.
But what happens next will blur the lines between love and hate and victim and criminal.
I love you. Oh, wow, I love you too, y'all.
July 20th, 2008. It's a lazy Sunday afternoon in the New York borough of Brooklyn. Crystal Wright is in the middle of a catnap when she's jolted awake by someone pounding on her door.
It's a neighbor, and she tells me that some man is choking my child outside.
Somebody is hurting your daughter. I need you to come and get somebody in front of your daughter.
Unsure which of her two daughters might be in trouble, Crystal races downstairs.
People are saying, he's across the street, right there, that he's running.
He ran that way.
Crystal chases after the assailant.
Hey, wait! Stop!
I'm yelling, hey, hey. And he doesn't turn around. He just keeps moving.
Wait! Stop! Hey! You!
I don't know who this man is, but he ain't getting away. He slows down and he stops and he bends down.
At first, the man's back is to Crystal. But as he stands up, he turns to face her. Crystal can't believe her eyes.
I was shocked. I felt like betrayed. It was very difficult. Very, very difficult.
A resident of the Brooklyn neighborhood of Bushwick, Crystal Wright worked diligently to provide for her 3 children. And though son Dewan and daughters Denetria and Kenesha are well-behaved, Crystal keeps them on a tight leash.
My children said that I'm a strict mom. I thought that, you shouldn't go outside unless your homework was completed. They had to come in at a certain hour, it's rough around in this neighborhood.
Crystal's oldest daughter, Denetria, is shy and quiet, but also exceptionally bright. Crystal makes sure that with Denetria, school always comes first, and dating is pretty much out of the question.
Not many of her girlfriends got out of high school. Babies become parents at a very early age, and we were trying to make sure that wasn't happening with her.
Not that Denetria is a wallflower. She has plenty of close friends, including her childhood confidant, Tiffany Page. In 2003, at one of Tiffany's family functions, Denetria bumps into a tall, handsome stranger.
Meet my friend Denetria.
Hey, how are you? How are you?
I'm good, how are you?
Tiffany introduces him as her cousin, 29-year-old Jason Page. Despite the age difference, Denetria and Jason make an immediate connection.
Jason was sweet, he was sensitive. He made me laugh a lot, and I thought that was nice.
Jason asked for Denetria's number.
I tell you what, we need to get together. Me and you need to hang out, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't know about that.
With her parents' strict dating policy and their 12-year age gap, Denetria turns Jason down flat.
I'll see you around.
You see me around?
Yeah.
I felt he was way older than me. I was only 17 and he was 30.
In the spring of 2003, Denetria graduates high school and launches a career as a healthcare provider.
Hi.
What's up?
Over the next few years, she occasionally bumps into Jason.
A lot of times, if Tiffany had something at her house or they would have something at Jason's mother's house, and I would always go. And Jason was always there. He continued to talk to me and offered to take me out a couple of times, and I declined. And I kept declining, and he just kept pushing.
The chemistry between the two is always palpable. And in 2006, Jason finally makes his feelings for Denetria clear.
I used to just look at him and be like, you better get out here, old man. And he's like, just let me take you out. You'll have a good time. You ain't never meet a guy like me.
Why don't we go, get a little bite, my treat.
Yeah, I like that.
You like that? I like that too.
He was so persistent every time he seen me, so I finally gave in and let him take me out.
On their first date, Jason takes Denetria to dinner. Things go so well, he invites her back to his house where they talk the night away.
I'm glad you came.
Me too.
We went out to dinner, then we went back to his apartment and we just sat up and we talked, getting to know each other a little better. We laughed, we joked, we cried. We had a lot of things in common.
It doesn't take long for Denetria to fall head over heels in love.
That's for you.
I started dating him right after our first date because I found out that, we had a lot of things in common. He always put me first, so it was great. We both like to make each other laugh, so I just fell in love with that. He was treating me so nice. I never had someone treat me as nice as Jason did.
But a few months into their relationship, Jason makes a startling confession, one that has the potential to throw a wrench into their budding romance.
He got custody of his daughter. She was having problems with her mother, so she wanted to stay with her father. Jason raised her, took her in and raised her, and I took her as my child.
Jason, is that you?
Yeah, baby, it's me. I got a little surprise for you.
Let's see.
This is my little girl.
Hi.
Rather than being scared off by the idea of dating a single parent, Denetria believes Natalie's presence will only strengthen their relationship. And when Natalie moves in with Jason, Denetria falls in love all over again.
I immediately seen her as my daughter. She was calling me mommy. We became very close very quickly. She was the greatest child ever.
Shortly after that, Jason asked Denetria to move in with him and Natalie.
We asked Denetria to bring Jason over so we could meet him. It was very important that I know this man.
A couple weeks later, Denetria and Jason meet her parents for dinner.
Jason?
My
pleasure.
All right, nice to meet you.
My pleasure.
Oh, look at you. I see why she gets so much fun.
Jason was just telling my mother that he's gonna take good care of me, that she don't have anything to worry about.
He was like, I'm a good guy and I really care about her.
She's a beautiful girl.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
He gave me the impression that he was a decent person.
I told my mother we was falling in love and this is a serious relationship.
With her parents' blessing, Denetria moves in with Jason and his daughter. The bond between Denetria and Natalie continues to grow, and Jason treats Denetria like a princess.
He'll cook, he'll buy me flowers, he run in my bathwater. I loved him.
Which makes the nightmarish scene in the streets of Bushwick months later that much harder to comprehend. Because as he turns to face her, Denetria's mother, Crystal Wright, realizes that the man she's been chasing, the man who friends and neighbors witnessed strangling one of her daughters, is none other than Jason Page. It's every mother's worst nightmare. Crystal Wright is taking it easy one Sunday afternoon when a panicked neighbor informs her that one of her daughters has been viciously attacked and that the assailant is attempting to flee the scene.
He ran that way.
As Crystal gives chase, she wonders, who is this man and why has he attacked one of her children?
Still, I think I'm chasing a complete stranger.
After Crystal catches up to him, the man turns and faces her. That's when Crystal realizes the alleged perpetrator isn't some stranger. It's her daughter Denetria's boyfriend, Jason Page.
And when he turns around and I see it's Jason, I was shocked. I felt like betrayed.
But Crystal's shock quickly turns to outrage.
He starts carrying on.
Go ahead, whirlwind. What you gonna do?
Crystal refuses to back down and reaches for a glass bottle.
I'm telling you, son, you better get back.
Just then, the police arrive.
Put it down!
They said, "Miss, put it down and tell me what's going on." So I was like, this man just choked my child.
On your knees. Hurt my baby. She got that ball, man. On your knees. I ain't do nothing. Relax.
Once we have taken the suspect into custody, then we have to go through the process of working with the victim.
Caught up in the moment, Crystal isn't even sure where her daughter is. Neighbors direct her to a nearby apartment where a family friend is tending to Denetria.
I open up the door and everybody in the place is crying.
Denetria, baby, Denetria.
I'm like, what are y'all crying for? And they asked me, did you see her body?
Crystal is aghast. Denetria looks as if she's been tortured.
All I could see was these lashes, and they were everywhere. Her arms, her legs, every other part of her. They were just all over each other. There were so many of them. I mean, one was so deep, you could almost see her bone.
These were deep lacerations. These were not superficial wounds. You couldn't even see a lot of the injuries due to the blood.
Oh my God.
It was very difficult, very, very difficult.
Crystal throws her arms around Denetria and leads her to the police cruiser where Jason is cuffed.
It's like, is this the guy that was hitting on you? And Jason looking at me, I told the cops, yeah, that was him.
After identifying her boyfriend, Jason Page, as the attacker, Denetria is loaded into an ambulance and rushed to a nearby hospital.
Her back was so raw, and her legs, she was so bloody, and her clothes were stuck to her. I think the only thing, he didn't hit was her face.
With Denetria drifting in and out of consciousness, police turn to her mom for answers. They quickly determine that Denetria has been living with Jason at the apartment he shares with his daughter Natalie for over a year. This prompts another even more frightening realization, that 8-year-old Natalie is nowhere to be found. Investigators rush to Jason and Denetria's apartment. Entering the residence, there's no immediate sign of young Natalie. But as they make their way from room to room, investigators uncover a terrifying scene.
I mean, you're looking at belts, cords, blood on the wall. It is truly a medieval torture chamber.
Finally, they find Natalie in her bedroom. She's shaken up, but physically unharmed. Police immediately transport Natalie to the station, where she is remanded to the custody of her mother's family. When investigators return to the hospital to speak to Denetria, they discover that her condition has worsened. Her injuries are now life-threatening.
This was a horrific assault. Lengthy assault. Obviously, she had scars that clearly were not new scars. They were old scars.
She had lost so much blood from him beating her.
They had to have 2 blood transfusions.
It's touch and go for the next several hours, but eventually, Denetria is upgraded to stable condition and is now capable of answering investigators' questions. With her mother Crystal by her side, Denetria recounts the nightmarish story from the very beginning. After just a few months of dating, Denetria believed she'd found her soulmate in Jason Page. But as Denetria tells police, 6 months after moving in, the relationship took an unexpected turn.
At that time, I was doing home care, which is taking care of the elderly. I would have to stay late at work, and Jason didn't like that.
Hi, baby.
Hey, baby. You know what I'm saying? You don't pick up your phone? I've been calling you all day.
He would just asked me so many questions, like, what took you so long to come home, or why you didn't pick up when I was calling you at work?
When I call you, you pick up your phone.
Denetria says she explained to Jason that the nature of her work didn't allow for many personal calls, but Jason wasn't satisfied.
What, you some dude or something? What's up with that?
I would tell him, you don't have nothing to worry about. I'm with you, I love you, I don't want to be with nobody else.
It's okay, I'm sorry. Give me a hug. I'm sorry.
Jason told Denetria he believed her, but over the next few weeks, his possessive behavior only got worse. According to Denetria, the situation came to a head at a family get-together at Jason's mother's house. While there, Denetria took a call from a male friend.
Hello? Oh, hey, Jonathan. Oh, I'm gonna have to call you back, okay? Okay, bye. Now, what were you saying?
Jonathan?
Yeah, my coworker.
Who the hell is Jonathan?
Jason went ballistic.
You know what? Let me house you for a minute.
Why are you grabbing my jacket?
Denetria tried to reason with Jason, but that only made him angrier.
He had just bought me some sneakers, so he had took the sneakers off my feet and threw them in the garbage and was grabbing me up.
Denetria claims that at one point during the altercation, Jason struck her.
Excuse me, I'm talking. You keep raising your voice over me? You better recognize who I am.
Denetria began to cry before calling her brother Dewan, begging him to come pick her up.
Hey, come get me. Jason just hit me.
As Denetria waited for her brother to arrive, a tearful Jason apologized.
Come on, let's go talk about it, you know what I'm saying?
And by the time her brother arrived, Denetria and Jason had kissed and made up.
I was like, no, I'm not going. I just got in the cab and went home with Jason. I know it was wrong for a guy to put his hands on a female, but I love Jason. I just thought that it was just me, that I was getting him upset. I was willing to get through it with him.
When Crystal got wind of the incident, she was devastated.
I was like, what do you mean she won't leave with you? I don't know what person could do that to another person, you know, especially somebody that you say you love. Love don't hurt.
But when she talked to Denetria about it, Denetria assured her it was just a one-time thing.
She's promised me that's not going on. Mommy, we get into arguments, but it's not that serious.
What Crystal didn't know at the time was that Jason's abusive behavior toward Denetria had continued to intensify.
I just kept the abuse that Jason did to me to myself.
What, you some dude or something? Hey, yo, I'm talking to you. I said I'm talking to you.
I would say something smart back to him, and that would escalate into a push or a slap. And once he did that, I would just leave it alone, because I ain't like to fight him.
He was just such a volatile individual. He obviously had some serious emotional issues, probably some sort of psychiatric issues.
Hearing this story at the hospital, police can't help but wonder if Jason's abuse was escalating to the point of regular physical assaults. Why didn't she just leave him?
It's very hard to acknowledge to yourself that you're in an abusive relationship. The guys, the very manipulative men, they're the obsessive, controlling. They know how to push the button that's, going to bring her back. There's fear. And then there's a psychological connection and belief that the abuser really does love them.
But as they listen to Crystal and Denetria, investigators are increasingly puzzled. Denetria's story does nothing to explain the veritable torture chamber they've discovered inside Jason's apartment. That's when Denetria makes a startling revelation and walks them through a grim story, one that graphically details 17 days of pure hell.
Even the seasoned officer at that point steps back and goes, wow.
When sweet 22-year-old Denetria Council fell for charming older man Jason Page, she never imagined their tender, loving relationship would ultimately send her into intensive care, fighting for her life. Lying in her room at Woodhull Medical Center, Denetria has just relayed a startling tale of abuse to police.
What the heck happened here? For almost everybody who has heard about this case, trying to understand is really incomprehensible.
That's when Denetria reveals to the police the darkest chapter of her story. According to Denetria, after months of abuse, she finally came to understand just how toxic the relationship had become. It was then that she decided to leave Jason once and for all. But Denetria felt that before she left, she owed Jason's 8-year-old daughter, Natalie, a proper goodbye.
I didn't want to leave. I loved her like she was my own.
But as Denetria explained to police, not even in her worst nightmare could she envision what horrors awaited her when she headed back to the apartment one final time. The moment Denetria walks through the door, Jason began shouting angry accusations at her.
Don't you disrespect me like that. What's wrong with you?
Trying her best to ignore him, Denetria grabs her things and heads for the door. But Jason's anger boils over, and he finds a more permanent way to keep her under his control.
No.
I said, come on. Come on. Let's go.
Stop!
Once he's tied her to the bed, Jason begins whipping Denetria with a belt.
That was the first time he ever used anything besides his hands was the belt. And that was most shocking to me because I was just so surprised. Like, he really beat me like I was a child with a belt.
The beating lasts for nearly 10 minutes. At that point, Jason trades his belt for an even more brutal means of torture.
When he used the extension cord, I was shocked. I was scared. I was like, wow, he never took it to this extent. He hit me probably for like 2 minutes, and he would stop. Because he'd be out of breath, and I'd be tired and crying.
What you bring inside of me? You know I love you.
Then he would start to cry, and I love you, I wouldn't do this to you. And then it would start again.
When Jason is beating Denetria, he is going through two sets of emotions. One is the power and control. She earned what she's getting. But then on the other side is he's like, wow, I can't believe that I just hurt her to this level.
Meanwhile, Mother Crystal is beginning to worry. Normally, she and Denetria talk every day, but Crystal hasn't heard from her daughter in more than 24 hours. As the unanswered calls mount, Crystal becomes increasingly concerned, and with good reason.
Call your mother, tell you you're all right. You'll take this phone, you better not play with me.
On the other end of the line, Jason is already concocting a plan to deal with Denetria's mom.
He had the knife to me and was like, if you say anything or try to give a clue or hit anything, I'ma cut you. So I did what he said.
Hey, Mom. I'm good.
Jason also makes Denetria call her employer.
He had me call and tell the job that I'm not gonna be able to make it to work for a few days because I didn't have a babysitter. They said, okay, just call them when I'm able to come back to work.
Once these calls have been made, Jason ups the violence factor even further.
My feet was tied up and he burned the bottom of my foot with a lighter.
Denetria makes as much noise as possible in an effort to attract the attention of neighbors.
Stop! Stop!
Now you gonna listen?
No!
I figure if I scream or stomp loud enough, neighbors upstairs or downstairs will at least call the police.
In response to Denetria's outburst, Jason tapes her mouth shut with duct tape. With Denetria completely immobile, the beatings begin anew the next morning.
Why did you listen?
I couldn't scream, I couldn't move, I couldn't do nothing. I had to just take the pain, and that really was excruciating pain to take.
As if that's not enough, Jason's 8-year-old daughter, Natalie, is home for summer vacation. Jason doesn't lay hands on his daughter, but she bears witness to the brutality.
We was in our bedroom, but you know, her room door is open. She's sitting there crying.
Each beating is longer and more vicious than the last. For Denetria, days and nights become one horrific blur. She's convinced the only way Jason will let her leave the apartment is in a body bag.
He was like, you know how easy it to get rid of your body if I wanted to? I'm scared, like I don't want to die in this house.
And so it goes for more than 10 days. Friends, family, and co-workers have called to check in on Denetria. With a knife repeatedly held to her throat, Denetria is forced to lie, telling everyone that she's doing just fine.
At times I was getting tortured, my mother would call. So he would stop and give me the phone. And I'd be winded, out of breath. She'd be like, what's wrong with you? And I'd be like, nothing, just came home from work and I'm tired.
Yeah, I just wanted to call and let you know I was okay. I love you.
Jason had to keep Denetria isolated. He knew what Mom was capable of doing. She's going to protect her child.
Wasn't a day passed and I didn't speak to her. I didn't have a clue that Denetria was being abused the way she was being abused.
By day 17, Denetria's spirit is all but broken. But just when all hope seems lost, an opportunity to escape presents itself. One that will lead to a life and death chase through the streets of Brooklyn.
Well, I kept saying, if he get you in this car, Denetria, and he take you home, he definitely gonna kill you.
Though she initially believed he was the love of her life, 22-year-old healthcare worker Denetria Council is now being held captive by her live-in boyfriend, 34-year-old Jason Page. And Denetria now fears for her life. But on day 17 of her captivity, Jason makes an unexpected move. He unfastens Denetria's restraints and lies down beside her in their bed. Though weakened from the beatings and blood loss, Denetria realizes this may be her only chance for escape.
I don't know how I'm getting out here. I know I'm getting out here. Them days he was beating me, he wouldn't really sleep, so I know his body is tired. I use that as my advantage.
Denetria cuddles up to Jason.
I know you're tired, just get some sleep, baby.
And after an hour or so, he falls asleep. With Natalie asleep in the other room, Denetria makes her move. Though she's unsteady on her feet and she's hesitant to leave Natalie behind, Denetria tiptoes her way to the front door.
I opened the door quietly as a mouse. I put my slippers in my hand and I just ran down the steps and just started running to the train station.
Denetria hops the turnstile and boards the J train, bound for the Gates Avenue stop, a few blocks from her parents' home. As the train reaches Gates Avenue, a sense of relief washes over Denetria. But when she begins to make her way toward her parents' home, Denetria's met by a terrifying sight.
Jason jumped out of a car. I was just so shocked. I'm like, oh my God, how he beat me here so quick?
No.
Come on, let's go.
No.
I said let's go.
No.
I said, come on.
Stop!
An exhausted Denetria tries to fight back, but an enraged Jason grabs her and begins dragging her back to his car.
He pulling me and I'm grabbing onto the gate and I just started screaming, somebody help me, please, somebody help me. One of the neighbors like, hey, leave her alone, and I'm calling the cops. She called the cops. Jason let me go and ran off. So I had another childhood friend that I grew up with, lived in the next building. She came downstairs and she took me to her house.
Just moments after Denetria is ushered to safety, her mother Crystal gets word of what happened. And after chasing down Denetria's attacker, she's finally reunited with her daughter. She escorts Denetria back down to the scene of the crime, where Denetria positively identifies Jason as her attacker before being rushed to the emergency room. Investigators are floored. Denetria's story dovetails precisely with the scene they encountered inside Jason's apartment. It also gives them ample reason to charge Jason Page with first-degree assault and kidnapping.
I met Jason Page in the arraignment jail at the courthouse. He was particularly upset because he was aware of the severity of the allegations against him.
While they're processing Jason Page, investigators run a background check and discover that his violent behavior didn't begin with Denetria. By the age of 26, Jason had accrued a lengthy rap sheet, which includes an assault with a deadly weapon charge, as well as several harassment and drug charges.
Jason didn't like rules. His attitude got him in a whole lot of trouble.
Jason's history of violence, coupled with the current charges, prompts a judge to hold him without bail. Jason is carted off to infamous Rikers Island.
At the time Jason got arrested, we was not allowed to see him. He was sad and angry.
Meanwhile, Denetria remains hospitalized and is slow to recover from the injuries she suffered.
She was in the hospital for a little longer than a week. She had lost so much blood from him beating her.
After more than a week of intensive care, Denetria returns to her parents' home. Though now she's plagued by flashbacks of what she has endured.
When I would close my eyes, I would have visions of him beating me and torturing me, and it was just hard for me to sleep.
Those familiar with the case are convinced a guilty verdict against Jason Page is in the bag.
You know, clearly the injuries on Denetria are undeniable. I mean, nobody's going to argue that she wasn't beaten.
But 1 month later, the case takes a shocking turn. The district attorney's office receives a letter in the mail, one that seems to exonerate Jason of any wrongdoing, a letter penned by the most unlikely of authors.
Denetria Council wrote a letter to Jason while he was in jail, and this said that Jason was not the person who committed this crime against her, and that was indeed quite a revelation that she was confirming this.
In the letter, Denetria identifies a man by the name of Jonathan as her true attacker. Prosecutors are dumbstruck. Is it possible that Denetria's account of what happened is a fabrication?
Denetria was willing to lie about something substantial, not something minor, but lie about something very serious.
What prosecutors are about to uncover will leave everyone speechless. Denetria Council was allegedly held captive and brutally tortured for more than 2 weeks by her demented boyfriend, Jason Page. Her initial statement to investigators, coupled with gruesome injuries she seems to have suffered, have allowed prosecutors to charge Jason with first-degree assault and kidnapping. But their rock-solid case against Jason begins to crumble when they receive a letter proclaiming his innocence. A letter written by none other than Denetria Council.
Denetria Council wrote a letter to Jason while he was in jail, and this said that Jason was not the person who committed this crime against her. That was indeed quite a revelation that she was confirming this.
Investigators with the DA's office decide to pay Denetria a visit.
The district attorney felt that the letter was concocted or coerced.
Listen, we've got a little problem.
What's the problem?
I received this letter from you. Do you remember writing a letter?
Initially, Denetria holds firm to her new story, that Jason is innocent and that a man named Jonathan is the real perpetrator.
Jason didn't do it. It was Jonathan. I was just covering for him.
But as they're listening to her, investigators can tell Denetria isn't being completely forthcoming.
I need you to explain to me and explain to your mother why you changed your mind this far into an investigation.
And with that, Denetria comes clean. Apparently, it all started a few days after she was released from the hospital, when she received an unexpected call from her old friend, Tiffany Page, Jason's cousin. At first, Denetria is touched to hear from Tiffany, until she realizes there's someone else on the line with her.
I got something for you. Hold on. What? Hello? Hello?
Oh. And then Jason would get on the phone. He'd be like, "Hi, baby. How you doing?"
Mom, listen, I didn't mean to do none of that shit.
In an instant, Denetria is overcome with emotion And though every fiber of her being tells her to hang up the phone, she can't seem to do it.
I was surprised, like, you still calling me after what you just did to me? But I thought it was sweet too, like, oh, he still loved me.
Denetria, like most domestic violence victims, they're still very, very tied to the abuser. In some ways, they're as obsessed with believing that he loved them as the men were obsessed with controlling her.
Denetria tells investigators that she and Jason begin talking by phone every week. Denetria keeps these conversations a secret from the rest of her family. But after a month of phone calls, Jason makes Denetria a bold offer.
Can you come and see me tomorrow? I'm really looking forward to seeing you, Mom. I really want to see you. Please, that's all I'm asking you.
He got a visit coming up. And he was like, would you come visit me? And I was like, yeah.
Knowing that her family will do everything in their power to stop her, Denetria decides to keep the upcoming visit under wraps.
I snuck to Rikers Island to go visit him. I know I shouldn't be going to go see him, but I wanted to hear what he had to say.
Denetria still couldn't sever that tie.
When Denetria sits down in the visitation area, only a table separates her and Jason.
When he seen me, he cried. He just kept saying that how much he loved me and that he never meant to take it this far.
I'm so sorry for everything that's been going down. You know I love you.
Without thinking, Denetria tells Jason she loves him and she wants to get back together.
I love you too.
Jason says that all Denetria has to do to make that happen is write a letter to the DA's office proclaiming his innocence.
We can work through this, okay? I got something I need you to do for me, though.
He's trying to persuade her to help get him off.
He asked officer for a piece of paper and a pen, so they gave him the pen and paper. I wrote the letter. You know, he said he loved me and, you know, things is gonna get better. And that was it.
Denetria signs it and hands it to Jason, who mails it to the DA's office on Denetria's behalf.
Thank you so much.
Denetria's actions have put the entire case in jeopardy.
I'm like, I'm trying to make sure this man pays for what he did, and you're trying to help him get out of it. Are you crazy?
There was no videotape or audio tape of the crime, so it really amounted to the credibility of her testimony.
Prosecutors tell Denetria the only way they can go forward with the case is if she renounces the letter and promises to testify against Jason at trial. Denetria agrees.
When the trial was starting, I was excited because he needed to get what he deserved, because no female should get beat and tortured as bad as I did. I would look at my body and be like, who gonna want me now? Like, my body is scarred from top to bottom for the rest of my life. Like, so I would sit and cry. Like, I hated Jason with a passion. I wanted him to die, even though, you know, that's not good to wish death on anybody, but I wanted Jason to die because I almost died. So I was nervous when it was time to go to trial because they was like, I'm gonna have to testify and Jason's gonna be in the courtroom.
It is amidst this swirl of chaos and controversy that the state of New York versus Jason Page gets underway. Denetria's friends and family are eager to see justice served.
I was ready to let the judge know what kind of animal he was. We found out from the DA that he had beaten 2 other women in 2 different states and got away. So my thing was to the judges, if you let this man out, you know, he's eventually going to kill someone's child. And I was thankful that it wasn't mine.
Prosecutors opened their case by depicting Jason Page as a serial abuser with a long history of violence who preyed on a young woman with little relationship experience.
In any criminal trial, the prosecutor wants to portray the defendant as this villain, evil person. And I think it was the first time I've ever seen a jury telegraph their fear of a defendant.
To support their case, prosecutors call their wild card star witness to the stand. Everyone in the courtroom is wondering which Denetria Council will testify. The bold heroine who escaped her abductor, or the timid young woman who, blinded by love, sought to sabotage the case against him.
When it's time for me to testify against Jason, I was scared, had to woman up and do what I had to do. So when it was time to testify, Jason, I sat on the stand, and Jason, they said don't look at Jason, but I had to look at him. Like, I had to see his face, just to see his expression and see how he would react. And he was just giving me that, you know, that strict parent look, like when you know you're in trouble and they just be looking at you like, yeah, you gonna get in trouble.
Before she got on the stand, she was shaking. I told her, you know, if you can't look at him, try to focus on me. You know, don't look that way if it bothers you that much. But she got up there and I was proud of her. I was proud that she could look him in his face.
Very tense courtroom when Denetria was testifying. You have the defendant who's maybe 30 feet away from her, and he was a big guy.
Staring down her alleged attacker, Denetria recounts her 17 harrowing days in captivity.
She also showed the jury her injuries. And even though a year had lapsed since the crime, she still had visible marks all over her body. Several of the female jurors seemed to take a very loud breath when she showed her scars. And I could see that deeply affected the jury, and indeed it deeply affected everybody in the courtroom. As a criminal defense attorney, to get up and cross-examine somebody under those conditions, it makes it very difficult. You can't scream and yell at that type of witness. It would not go over well with a jury. So my goal was to attack her credibility.
Denetria's testimony is powerful, but the defense counters by submitting into evidence her now infamous letter to the DA. They also play recordings of the phone conversations Denetria had with Jason while he was incarcerated at Rikers Island.
I love you. Oh, wow, I love you too, y'all. I love when you say that, yo. I miss you.
This is so.
In the recordings, Denetria sounds more like a woman in love than a woman abused. And despite Denetria's dramatic testimony, it seems the tide has turned in the defense's favor. That's when prosecutors call another bombshell witness to the stand, one whose testimony will ultimately make or break the case, one who allegedly witnessed the torture of Denetria Council firsthand, one who is only a child, Jason's daughter, Natalie. What began as a picture-perfect romance deteriorated into a nightmare of jealousy, obsession, and violence. And almost robbed healthcare worker Denetria Council of her life. June 10th, 2009, amid a packed New York City courtroom, Denetria Council has taken the stand against her abusive boyfriend, Jason Page, who's accused of kidnapping and torturing Denetria for 17 days. Denetria's testimony was powerful, but the defense has countered by submitting as evidence the letter Denetria wrote to the district attorney proclaiming Jason's innocence, and by playing the secret phone calls Denetria made to Jason while he was behind bars.
I love you.
Oh, wow, I love you too, y'all.
It seems the fate of the case comes down to the testimony of one young woman, Jason Page's daughter, Natalie, who prosecutors claim witnessed the abuse firsthand.
She came into the courtroom and she just looked like a scared little kitten.
Fighting back tears, Natalie outlines the horrible pain she saw her dad inflict on the woman she called Mommy.
She testified that she saw her father whip Denetria Council with an electric wire, and that she saw her father tie her up and abuse her. I was watching the jurors' faces when she was testifying, and I could see that some of them themselves were crying and tearing up while she was testifying. So it proved very difficult for me as the defense attorney, as Jason's advocate, to cross-examine this type of witness. That was the most damning testimony in the whole trial.
She told him, I seen my daddy put a knife to her throat, and then she told that her daddy told her to take the extension cord and take it outside to the garbage. You know, not the garbage inside the house, the garbage is out in front of the building. And she did what she was told, because if you hear something like that going on and you see what you see, I'm quite sure she had to be frightened of him too, you know. And she said what she said, and she got off the stand, and I just wanted to grab her and hug her.
Natalie's brave turn on the witness stand seals her father's fate. On June 16, 2009, the jury finds Jason Page guilty of assault and kidnapping.
I was there for the verdict, and I'm not gonna lie, it had me nervous. I was scared, I was shaking.
The judge sentences Jason to 25 years in prison, the maximum sentence allowed.
Jason just got completely out of control.
Jason started yelling at the judge, "That's all you got, 25 years?" And then Jason started to curse at Denetria's family in the courtroom. At that point, Denetria Council's family stood up and started screaming at Jason and Jason's family.
This time, Denetria is unbowed by Jason's rage.
I was relieved that it's finally over and I could finally actually be able to move on and put this behind me.
And to a certain degree, she has. In the years since the trial, Denetria has worked hard to get her life and her career back on track.
Since the trial, I went back to school to be a medical assistant. I graduated in January of 2010.
Denetria's doing well. She went and got her certificate for nursing. She's working 2 jobs. I think only good things are going to happen for her and to her, because she deserves it. She deserves a great life.
Still, the scars that pepper Denetria Council's body serve as a constant reminder of the pain she endured at the hands of the man she once loved.
I still have nightmares to this day. I have trust issues with guys. I know it's gonna take some time for me to handle, trying to figure out how to deal with that day by day. I'm gonna get through it.